All right, Eric, let's talk a little bit about Massachusetts and some numbers.
Yeah, we got numbers. March was the first partial month of legal online betting there. We got the report this week. It's really good. Almost 600 million in handle for the month of March. Again, only 3 weeks of online betting in there. That is larger than we would have expected. But again, we expect it to be larger than we expect somehow these days. But we know that a lot of this was driven by promos. And, all of these numbers that I'm telling you are really meaningless without that information. There was about just shy of $50 million in operator revenue combined. But again, we don't know how much of that revenue came from the operators themselves. What everyone is latching onto is DraftKings has the market share lead there, 44% of the handle compared to 31% for FanDuel. The other thing they're latching onto is that FanDuel out-revenued DraftKings. However, again, there's really not it's difficult to read much into these numbers, but in raw terms, in GGR, FanDuel earned more revenue than DraftKings did, which kind of dovetails with what we talked about with hold earlier. But I mean, all in all, good start for the Massachusetts market. Looks like it's on pace to do something like Indiana, Virginia numbers this year, about $4.5 billion in handle. And yeah, we're off and running in Mass.
Dustin, I want you to take us home here. Give us your thoughts there on Massachusetts, and also some news and notes on Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, I mean, the one that sticks out, I'm confirmed Barstool hater, obviously, but like Barstool is a Boston brand, had touted this is the market they're going to break through, and like they over-indexed by like 1% on the market, right? That's crazy and not great. Again, they were third in the market, right, Eric? I think if I'm pulling up the number, the fourth behind MGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, Barstool, and they beat WynnBET, which has an existing casino. So a little bit of, but like, they were kind of like, oh, this is the state where we're going to break through. And there's no evidence that they broke through at all. And they just kind of did what they normally do, which again is crazy. They're a Boston brand. They were like, not as connected because their headquarters now in New York. They're moving to Chicago, I guess, later this year. But like, it's kind of crazy that this Massachusetts identifying Boston brand, Portnoy obviously identifies as that, like didn't really break through. And you could kind of see this coming. And I wrote about this separately outside of our network. But like, it's like, what is next for Barstool? Like if you can't come in to Boston and Massachusetts and even come close to breaking into that top three, like it's kind of cringy to me. I think that you can't, because again, I think I would imagine that Barstool, like the employees there, are kind of like, what happened? How are we not better than fourth in this market? And again, only pulling in kind of what we do everywhere else, like kind of crazy. But a couple states to check in on. Oklahoma, unfortunately for any listeners in Oklahoma, dead this year. There had been a chance that we get something passed this year. Things had looked kind of promising earlier this year, but a bill had passed the House. Deadline to cross it was kept alive, but didn't cross into the Senate. And it did cross in the Senate, but never got any action there. So hopefully Oklahoma at least has set the stage. We see sometimes these are multi-year processes that we can see doing a little bit better. Other than that, and then Texas again, kind of on life support is the news here that just every time Mike writes about this, Mike Mazzeo writes about it, like it's here, it's not dead, but like it's just long odds to move out of the Senate right now. Everybody's saying bad things, that there's just not support for this, that even though the sports teams all support this here, that has not moved the needle enough to get action, which is again crazy when you have the likes of Jerry Jones and Mark Cuban behind this, and they're not able to even force a vote on this. I guess maybe forcing a vote, like as we learned in California, might not be great to force a vote in the Senate when we have absolutely zero support. So, right now we're looking like it's not dead, but I don't know. It's a really heavy underdog right now to get something done this year. And again, as we always say, Texas is the one. Now we're waiting 2 years. If it doesn't get done this year because they only meet every 2 years, the legislature. So, hopefully this leads to more discussions. But we thought all the discussions that took place in the off years here were going to lead to real progress, and it did. But it still just doesn't look promising for Texas to get anything done this year.
Eric, I'll admit I was off base on Texas. I thought for sure, with having a whole year to rally around this, the power that is within that state. Dustin didn't even mention Tillman Fertitta, who is also there as well, another multi-billionaire guy with a ton of power, put in a $5.6 billion bid to try to buy the Washington Commanders and all that. So, I mean, like another dude with the juice. And you have all of these guys and all of these voices that are really and truly behind this and in support of this. And if you read some of these straw polls as well, like some are as high as like, I don't believe that I saw one that said 73% of Texans support sports betting, but I did see one that said 61% of Texans. And I can believe that. I can buy that, right? If someone said, hey, are you for or against sports betting? I think 61% of people probably would say, yeah, it's fine. I don't care or whatever. So it's like we're going against the will of the people, against the power brokers, all the stuff like that going on in Texas. And as Dustin mentioned, we will have to wait until 2025 if nothing gets done here, if there's no Hail Mary this year.
Yeah, if we took it, not knowing all the details we know, we probably would not expect Texas to be among the earliest states to get sports betting. We kind of expected it to take a while, but it's disappointing. And I'm just sort of thinking back 12, 18 months, there was a period where it looked like California, Texas, and Florida all could have legal sports betting by the time we're sitting here today. If obviously Florida had it briefly and doesn't now, California completely certainly never a favorite to pass, but it was live for a while, fell apart completely. Texas looks like it probably is going to take another couple years, and Florida's tied up in the courts. So, who knows? We're gonna still be doing this California, Florida, Texas thing. It looks like for the foreseeable future.
Before we get out of here, I do want to mention we were off last week because we were all, as a company, gathering in a big group. It was interesting. Dustin, I know you were sorely missed being there, but it was just interesting telling the story as we looked out into a room of 130 plus people that were there. That at one point it was me, you, and the two founders of this company, for a hot minute, and then now there's 130 plus people in a room together with all of that. Super kind words were said by everyone that came up out listening to this podcast, listening to you guys, being able to speak on this, and of course Adam as well, and all the contributors that we've had here on the pod. So I do appreciate all of the kind words that everyone came up and said about this. It really was kind of echoing what we set out to do in the first place, which was, hey, not everybody has time to keep up with all this stuff. We're all busy. Can we go in, try to get a week's worth of information in, 25 to 45 minutes and let people know what's going on in the industry? And, that really did kind of ring true. So kudos to you guys and everything that you have done. And I do want to thank everybody that was there and came up and said something nice about the podcast, because it is something that I didn't know that was going to kind of grow into what it has, which has kind of become one of the industry staples. And again, it's because of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and this has been always just a labor of love, and we don't really make any money off the podcast. We just kind of do it because it's another piece of content that we do that people value. And it was before this too. We get more comments about the podcast than I think than anything else we do. It's at the company and with LSR even. It's good to hear that people listen to us, and it's honestly one of the most fun half hours I have, work or otherwise, because I just get to rant and talk and do all this. It's a fun escape to just do this and talk about the industry a little bit and sum it up. So
got to spend some great time with one Eric Ramsey here on this very podcast in a face-to-face format. We got to clink some cups and things like that, and that was super fun, and met some guys. Listen, it's weird how this industry goes. I was standing there and multiple different people came up and was like, hey, Matt. And I look over, and I just knew people from other industries. Like, we have people that are now working for us that have come across, that I've crossed paths with. I mean, look, I understand I've been in this a long time, but still, it's just interesting that, not even in my gambling lives. I mean, there were some people from the MMA world that were coming up and now do all of this. And so good times to be had by all, Eric. And, look, even though you were a bit of a disappointment to hang out with, but I think everybody else was great.
Well, honestly, I was my least favorite part of that trip, too. I really enjoyed seeing all of you guys, too. Hopefully, we'll get that picture of you at the baseball game out there on social media so everyone can enjoy your some of the sights of San Diego from Matt Brown.
Were there any sloths at the zoo? Were there sloths at the zoo?
We didn't find sloths, but let me tell you, we spent an abnormal amount of time at the monkey cages, and so
we shouldn't talk anymore about the zoo, honestly.
No, it was just saying we spent an abnormal amount of time just, listen, we made some friends with all the different types of monkeys, and even the ones that were no longer with us, Eric, and that we'll just kind of end it. We'll just kind of end it right there. There were a couple of sad empty cages, Dustin, and we were just wondering what exactly may or may not have happened to who used to live in that cage. That's all I'm saying. I'm not throwing any accusations out there at the San Diego Zoo, just saying there was an empty cage. It said there was supposed to be someone in there, and ain't nobody coming and playing with us. That's all.
I didn't see any pandas either. I'm just saying.
Those are some of the stuff like that. But guys, I really do appreciate all that. And again, if you want to show your support, absolutely free. All you got to do is subscribe, rate, review, and again, helps us climb with those charts. And this will just get delivered to your podcast listening place of choice each and every week that we get this done. For Eric, for Dustin, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.